Most people's single biggest expense is staring them right in the face right now at this very moment. And I am telling you, it is absolutely not your daily coffee habit or that Netflix subscription you forgot to cancel. In this video, we are going to talk in extreme detail about what that massive wealth killer actually is. We will discuss how we can save thousands of dollars per year by understanding the specific breakdown of this hidden cost, and more importantly, how to use the money you save to actually make you way more money through compounding. First, we need to realize that most households have the exact same main expense categories across the board. It is usually housing, transportation, taxes, utilities, and general household spending that eats up the paycheck. Then you have food and everything else on top of that just piling up until there is nothing left at the end of the month. If we can save money on these big ticket items, we can save a massive amount of total cash for our future selves. So what do you think is the #1 wealth killer out there in the real world? I will give you a hint right now. This expense varies more than any other category from person to person based on ego and status. It is transportation. Your car is a massive wealth killer, and it is actively sabotaging your ability to retire early. The reason is that in our society, so many people link success to having a nice car or a specific flashy ride. I think a lot of people buy cars they cannot actually afford just for the sake of status and looking rich. I was talking to another finance creator recently, and we both agreed that cars are just a giant drain on your net worth. People love to brag when they see someone with a brand new car and they treat it like an achievement. Hey man, your car is so cool. What do you do for a living to afford that thing? It feels great to see your friends driving around in nice cars, and it makes you feel like you are falling behind. But we do not really see the financial impact behind it because it happens right under our noses in slow motion. Everyone else is doing it, so it feels normal to be broke and have a car loan. But in 2023, used car prices went up again by 2.5% in January alone, which is just insane. And for people who financed a new car in the fourth quarter of 2022, over 15% of them are trapped. They committed to a monthly payment of over $1,000, which is a nightmare for any budget. That is the highest record in history, and it shows how much people are willing to bleed for a badge. What is even crazier is that we are seeing dealers add massive markups on popular models just because they can. I saw a Porsche the other day with a $250,000 markup, which is just absolute madness. The markup alone was basically the price of the car itself, and people are actually paying it. According to data, the average cost of owning and operating a new vehicle in 2022 was $107,208 per year. Let that number sink in for a second and think about what that does to your savings rate. That is a huge amount of money that could be working for you in the market instead of rotting in a driveway. So let us break down the specific costs of owning a car, and I will tell you how I save money on every single one. I am looking at the data for a 2018 Honda Civic right now. As a baseline example, the 5-year true cost of ownership is $43,993 for a basic economy car. That is roughly $8,800 per year for something that just gets you from point A to point B. I chose the Honda Civic because it is a very economical car and highly recommended by everyone. It is not flashy or super expensive or meant to turn heads at a red light. And this car is already 5 years old, which means someone else already took the biggest hit. It is not some fancy BMW that 20-year-olds dream about while they work a job they hate. Even owning an economical used car like this is still incredibly expensive when you look at the total. The average salary in the United States is around $54,000 a year for most workers, so imagine owning a used car and having it cost 16% of your pre-tax income every single year. If we keep spending like this, it becomes impossible to build wealth or let savings compound into millions. I am not saying a Honda Civic is unaffordable for everyone because it is a solid choice. In fact, it is a very reasonable car choice compared to a lifted truck or a luxury SUV. But I want you to be aware that it costs a lot more than you probably think when you check your bank app. Let us look at the biggest cost, which is depreciation, which is the silent killer of wealth. 99% of cars depreciate, meaning they lose value over time with every single mile and every single scratch. Depreciation is the main reason why I think putting too much money into a car is a terrible investment strategy. The moment you put money into this asset, the value starts dropping, and it never stops until it hits zero. You are literally throwing cash into a melting ice cube and hoping it stays solid for your ego. If you want to save money here, stop buying brand new cars and let the suckers pay the sticker price. You have heard the saying that a new car loses 10 to 15% of its value the second you drive it off the lot. If you look at a depreciation curve, the best time to buy a car is when it is 3 to 5 years old. At that point, most of the massive initial drop in value has already happened to the first owner. But the car is still new enough that you will not have constant repair issues or safety concerns. Buying a 3 or 4-year-old car with 30,000 to 40,000 miles is the sweet spot for your wallet. That is how you beat the depreciation game and keep more of your hard-earned money. The next major expense for this Civic is taxes and fees, which the government loves to collect. You really cannot avoid this one easily unless you stop owning things entirely. Every car you own requires annual registration fees and taxes, which are government mandates you have to pay. The only way to lower this is to reduce the number of cars in your household and simplify your life. Some families have 3 or 4 cars for only 2 or 3 people, and they wonder why they are always tight on cash. Getting rid of one extra car saves you a lot because you cut out those recurring registration and smog check fees. Then we have the financing cost, which is where the banks really start to own your soul. This refers to the interest you pay when you take out a loan because you did not have the cash up front. Not many people walk into a dealership with $40,000 in cash because they spent it on other stuff. Most people put down $5,000 and finance the rest for 72 or even 84 months. With interest rates climbing the way they are, the interest expense is getting absolutely brutal. For the average buyer right now, if you have good credit, you might see rates around 6 or 7%, which is high for a depreciating asset. If your credit is bad, it will be much higher and you will be paying for that car twice over. In that case, I would suggest you do not even try to buy a newer car until you fix your score. Look for a cheaper used car you can buy with cash or a very small loan that you can kill quickly. Whether you lease or own, the next biggest category is fuel, which fluctuates based on global chaos. This is what people always forget when they calculate their monthly budget and look at their spreadsheet. They say their payment is $500, but forget the $200 they spend on gas to get to work. For this Honda Civic, the fuel cost over 5 years is $12,807, which is a massive chunk of change. That is about $2,561 per year or over $200 every single month just to move the car. That assumes you drive 15,000 miles a year, which is pretty standard for most commuters. There are not many ways to save on gas other than driving less or being extremely efficient. You could get a Costco membership and always fill up there to save $5 or $10 per tank every week. Over a long time, that actually adds up to a few $1,000s, which you can invest in via Woo. You could buy an electric vehicle, but they are very expensive right now, and the math does not always work. I do not think we are moving away from fossil fuels in the next 5 years, so you have to budget for this reality. Insurance for the Civic is $6,949 over 5 years, which is about $115 a month. I have a great tip for this that most people are too lazy to actually execute on. Every year, mark a specific date on your calendar, like your birthday or New Year's Day on that day. Call your insurance company and ask for a better rate or a loyalty discount. If they say no, go shop around with every other company in the market for an hour. Insurance companies know that a long-term customer is very valuable to them, and they will negotiate. If you are with AAA, call State Farm or Geico and see if they can beat the price for the same coverage levels. They will often undercut each other to get your business because the competition is fierce. I do this for my internet and phone bills too, and it saves me hundreds every single year. I call Comcast every single year around Christmas and have the exact same conversation. I tell them my budget is tight and I might switch providers if I do not get the promotional rate again. They usually transfer me to the retention department and extend the discount for another year just to keep me maintenance. And repairs are the final parts of this puzzle that can bankrupt you if you are unlucky. These are hard to cut unless you are willing to get your hands dirty and learn a new skill. With YouTube tutorials, you can learn to do basic maintenance yourself if you have the time and the tools. Changing your own oil is not that hard, and it gives you a sense of ownership over your machine. You can watch a 20-minute video from a guy like Chris Fix and learn the whole process for free. Every time you do it yourself, you save $100 to $150 in labor costs that the mechanic would charge. Think about how many oil changes you will need in your life if you keep driving for decades. If you drive 15,000 miles a year, that is at least 3 to 5 oil changes every single year. If you are 30 now and drive until you are 75, that is 45 years of maintenance on multiple cars. That is over 200 oil changes over the course of your lifetime that you are paying for. If you save $100 every single time, you just save $20,000 over your lifetime. For a 20-minute task, all for watching one 20-minute video and doing a bit of work in your driveway on a Saturday, I think that is absolutely worth it for the financial freedom. It helps provide down the line. Another thing you can do is go to a place like AutoZone when your check engine light comes on. They have free diagnostic tools that they let you use so you do not get scammed by a shop. They use a scanner to tell you exactly what is wrong so you do not have to pay a dealer $150 just to look. Sometimes it is something tiny like a loose gas cap or a sensor that needs a quick clean. My mom once stopped driving for a week because her engine light was on and she was terrified of a breakdown. She went to the dealer and it turned out the gas cap just was not tightened properly. After she got fuel, she wasted a whole trip and a lot of stress for nothing because she did not have the diagnostic tool. My final piece of advice is that the ultimate solution is not having a car at all. If you live in a city, imagine you save that $10728 every year and put it into an index fund. Like VUC, if you invested $10,000 into Microsoft stock 5 years ago, it would be worth nearly $30,000 today. The opportunity cost of owning a flashy car is massive, and it is keeping you from the life you want. You are not just spending $10,000 on the car, you are losing the future millions that money could earn. You should also consider living closer to your work even if the rent is a little bit higher. Many people commute an hour each way every day in heavy traffic and hate their lives. That adds massive wear and tear and fuel costs and stress that you do not need. If you pay $200 more in rent to live closer to the office, you might actually save money overall. You save on gas and depreciation, and you get your time back, which is more valuable than money. Time is the only asset you cannot buy more of, no matter how rich you get in the end. Stop trying to keep up with the neighbors by driving a car you cannot afford with money you do not have. The goal is to be wealthy, not to just look wealthy while your bank account is empty. I remember when I had $0 and was driving a 2006 beat-up car that smelled like old French fries. I did not care what people thought because I knew I was buying assets while they were buying liabilities. Now I have $124,560 in my portfolio and I still do not care about driving a supercar. I want freedom and I want options and I want to never have to answer to a boss again. To summarize, you should buy used cars in the 3 to 5 year range and avoid the new car trap. Shop for insurance every single year to make sure you are not being overcharged by a lazy company. Try to reduce the number of vehicles you own and walk or bike whenever it is possible. And look into living closer to where you work so you can stop being a slave to the commute. If you found this helpful, you need to start taking action today and not just watch another video. The difference between the rich and the poor is that the rich take action while the poor just keep watching. I will be posting more hard truths about the housing market and why your house might not be the investment you think it is. You do not want to miss that one because it is going to ruffle some feathers in the real estate world. I hope you found this helpful and that you start looking at your car as a tool and not an identity. Let me know what you think in the comments below, even if you disagree with my take on cars. I will see you in the next video where we dive into the stock market basics. Thanks for watching and go save some money today. Peace out.